Good afternoon. Old gun guy here on a very cold and windy day. The weather's been really crappy, so I haven't done any videos. Welcome to my, it's going to be 4 parts. This is part 1. Battle rifles of both world wars. Ones that served in both world wars. Obviously, there was no widespread use of any sort of semi-automatic rifle in the First World War. There was a couple of small batches that were issued, experimental types. I think the French had them and possibly the Russians. Everything was a bolt gun. Obviously they soldiered on into the Second World War. I have 4 examples from the main combatants. The Russian Empire and then the Soviet Union, the British Empire, 303 short magazine Lee Enfield, the American Mauser, 1903. This one is an A3, a World War II version, and the Enfield is a number 4 Mark I, and a K98 Mauser, World War II vintage, Gustav works. But first up, I'm going to do the Mosin Nagant, the 1891. I have an 1891/30 Mosin Nagant rifle. That'll be the first up. Shooting the Russian 7.62 by 54R cartridge. It's one of the longest serving military cartridges in existence. I'll go into the history of the gun and the cartridge, and then I'll do some shooting demonstrations with it. Do the chronograph. I'm going to shoot both non-corrosive. I have some Tula Russian ammo, Wolf. You can't get it no more. I also have military surplus corrosive 7.62 by 54 Russian. I'll shoot some of that through the gun too. Compare the velocities. I'll do an accuracy test at 100 yards off the bench, the iron sights, as best I can do. Do the comparative recoil with a 223. I'll shoot some steel plates with it just to see how accurately you can engage. I'll give you a close-up on the rifle. I'm going to take the camera off there and run it over the 4 rifles, and then I'll pause it and put the other 3 rifles away, and we'll just concentrate on the Mosin. So let me take the camera and show what we have here. Top rifle is the Mosin Nagant 1891/30 that was built in 1932. It's by the Tula Russian Arsenal. Second rifle is a Lee Enfield number 4 Mark I, World War II vintage bolt action rifle of the British Empire. The third rifle is the American Mauser. If I can pull a bolt out a little bit, no, you can see the actual Mauser bolt. I call it the American Mauser, but it's a 1903 A3 Springfield made by Remington, World War II. And the bottom one is a Gustav Works K98 Mauser, German Mauser. This is a bringback from Second World War by Okay, I'm back. I go into the cartridge first. This is how the military surplus ammunition was imported into the United States. They used to import it in tins that were 440 rounds, extremely cheap. But this is the 7.62 by 54R Russian round. It's got a rim, centerfire. It's 30 caliber. The case is 54 millimeters in length. It fires at 312 or 311 thousandths of an inch projectile. So 311 or 312 thousandths of an inch. CIP rates this cartridge as a maximum chamber pressure of 56,000 psi. And this is a standard Soviet load. Is 149 grain projectile because I pulled one apart and weighed it. 148, 149 was a standard loading. In the First World War, they may have had heavier projectiles, but this is what I wound up with. was introduced in 1891. Smokeless powder. It's kind of an archaic cartridge, but it's the longest serving cartridge, military cartridge from 1891 to the present. The Russians use this in their machine guns. Their version of what would be an M240 PKM machine gun, belt-fed machine gun. They're designated marksman's rifles or sniper rifles. They're Dragunov or SVD, and there's still Mosin Nagant scoped versions of this kicking around on battlefields to this day. Even in Ukraine, they're using this weapon. But at the end of the 19th century, smokeless powder came out, and the militaries were switching over to smaller caliber, higher velocity rounds. And out of a 29.5-inch barrel, which is what the Mosin Nagant has, the 1891, you get about 2,800 feet a second velocity, but we'll test that over the chronograph. There's not a lot to say about it other than it's served its purpose for 133 years. Yeah, 133 years, going on 134 years. Our servicemen in Afghanistan and Iraq and the Middle East wars have faced this cartridge. They've been shot at with it and shot with it. The effective range, the maximum range is like 3,000 yards, and I go into that of the cartridge. The effective range is, accurate range in a Mosin rifle is about 500 yards or 500 meters, 550 yards. And I think they list a scoped version with the 3.5 power scope at 850 meters. So, but it's basically the equivalent of a 7.62 NATO in power and velocity. Firing the same basic projectile, 148, 150 grain projectile at about the same velocities. So it was invented long before the 308, and it's still kicking along here. 25, 30 years ago, there was tons and tons of surplus coming into the country. This particular rifle I bought at a gun show maybe 20-something years ago. The gun dealer had 3 crates of these, all in Cosmoline, sitting on his bench. And I don't know how many rifles in a crate, maybe a dozen, maybe 16. And I picked out the one I have here because it has a hex receiver, and it's built by the Tula Arsenal. And I think back then I only paid about $85 for it. They're extremely cheap. Them days are gone. You find these now, they're quite a bit of money, $450, $500. But I'll go into the rifle because it is fairly interesting. We have a rifle that's nearly 4 feet. I think it is 4 feet in length. Has a 29.5-inch barrel. Has a protected front sight post. Has a cleaning rod that threads into a little receiver in the receiver itself. It threads the rod in and out. And I have the cleaning kit with this. I don't have it outside. I do have the load pouches with it. They're like a pebble grain vinyl. It's a 5-shot bolt action magazine fed semi-automatic rifle. The magazine's fixed, doesn't open up. It's got a tangent sight that's adjustable up to 2,000 meters or 2 kilometers. A mile and 3/8, maybe a little bit more. No one's obviously shooting this rifle at that distance, but I'll go into that. It's bolt is stainless steel in this multi-piece, and to take it out of the firearm, you just got to pull the trigger, pull the bolt out the back. The receiver, this one was built in 1932. It's actually stamped on it, Tula Arsenal. It's a hexagonal receiver, and it was imported by Century Arms. They have their stamp on a receiver. It's hexagonal except for the underside of the receiver. It's rounded on the bottom, so it's not full hex. Very long barrel, very long firearm. The back of the receiver, unlike most bolt actions, is open to allow the operation of bolt, because it's opposite of just about every other bolt action modern rifle. The lugs, the locking lugs, these two lugs here, they ride vertically into the receiver and they lock horizontally. A Mauser, an Enfield, 03, they're the opposite. The lugs ride horizontally. Not the Enfield. Enfield has a different type of bolt. But the Mauser and the 1903 A3 and just about every other bolt action rifle you're going to find, if it's a two lug 90-degree throw, which is what this is, it rides horizontal in the receiver and then locks, the lugs lock vertically. This is the opposite. They lock horizontally. And that's why the back of the receiver is open. It has interchangeable bolt heads. You can remove the bolt head. The striker is cocked here. The tangent sight, like I said, goes up to 2,000 meters. I don't know if you see how high that is, but the purpose of that, especially in the First World War, if they were firing, a couple hundred guys would fire a volley. Let's say the enemy was 1,500 meters or 2,000 meters away. You couldn't even see them behind a slight rise. And they basically all fire at once and lob these in like artillery rounds, just rain lead down on them and hopefully you hit something. That was the purpose of that. The actual accurate iron-sighted accuracy in this is 400 or 500 meters tops. And in the Second World War, they attached a scope to this, a 3.5 power scope, and the bolt had a bent down handle so it could operate. And they're listed about 800 meters, and they did quite a lot of damage to the Germans in the Second World War with this. But the Russian Empire was a combatant in the First World War, and in 1917, the Communist Revolution, when it became the Soviet Union, they cut a deal with Germany and got out of the war. So they weren't fighting Germany anymore. And put the bolt back in. The bolt has the, go with the bolt. That's the extractor. It's kind of like a modern rifle, spring-loaded extractor, snaps over the head of the cartridge, and it's got this slot milled in the bolt. That's for the ejector, which is in the receiver, on this side, on the left side of the receiver. I don't know if it shows up in the camera, but pull the trigger to get the bolt in. All right, bolt is in. 90-degree throw. The action is not, it's not bad. It's fairly smooth, but it's not as smooth as a Mauser. The safety is extremely awkward and ponderous on this thing. You have to pull the striker back. It's under a lot of spring tension and turn it to the side. And then, it's unsafe then, it won't fire. And then you have to put it back. The bolt cocks on opening like a Mauser. British Enfield's the opposite, it cocks on closing. Very much like the 1896 Mauser, an earlier version, they cock on closing. You can open up the magazine and drop the rounds out the bottom. It's got a little lever here, but it's not, this way you don't have to take them, cycle them through the gun. But with this type of action, you can just drop a round in and close the bolt and load it. You can't do that with a Mauser, with the Claw or the 03 A3 Enfield. Gun's very, I'm going to move back a little. The gun is extremely long and kind of unwieldy. You see it standing by me, it's nearly 4 feet, it's 4 feet tall, 48 inches. And then if you throw the bayonet on, I'm not going to twist the bayonet to lock it, but it goes over the muzzle. So now you get a gun that's about 5.5 feet tall, because I'm 6'2". So imagine a soldier that's as tall as this rifle wielding this thing. It's extremely long. Bayonet goes on, it's got a spring-loaded plunger. I don't know if you can see that. When you force it down, you twist it and it locks. But I don't want to do that because it's very hard coming off. And basically, it's like a giant screwdriver. You know, they call it a cruciform bayonet for jabbing somebody. But that's a basic rifle. They made something like 37 or 38 million of these rifles in its entire run, from 1891 to just after the Second World War. The Russians started making them. Other countries were making copies of them. The Communist Chinese, the Finns made their own version of this rifle. Between all the countries, there's a lot of them were made. 38 million, and they're still kicking around on battlefields. In fact, I saw a photograph not long ago of some Ukrainian soldiers with this particular rifle. I guess they ran out of weapons. But they dug everything out of every arsenal they could. Because they're going to shoot corrosive ammo at us, I got to clean this gun really good when I stop today. If I get a chance to actually do the velocity test, because I'm running at daylight. The wind was just too powerful before, blowing 20-25 miles an hour. The Russian Empire in the First World War, they got out of the war in 1917, but then became the Soviet Union, and then it was manufactured by the Soviets. But in the First World War, this was a 3-liney rifle. That was their measurement of the Russian Empire. A liney was 1/10 of an inch. 3-liney was 3/10 of an inch. 3/10 of an inch is 30 caliber. So this was the 3-liney or 30 caliber rifle. Since this was made in 1932, they modernized these guns, or if you will, in 1930, and they went to the metric system. So the sights graded in meters. The earlier Russian rifles before 1930, the unit of measurement was called an arshin, and it was 28 inches, 2 feet, 2 1/3 feet. So you would have going out to 2,000 arshins, but it ain't 2,000 meters, and it ain't 2,000 yards. An arshin's 28 inches, a yard is 36 inches, and a meter is just about 39 1/3 inches. It's 39.37 inches. You want to be exact. That's a meter, but round it off, 39 1/3 inches. So, and a rough. If you're going to use a metric system, if you're shooting 100 meters, it's 110 yards, roughly. 500 meters, 550 yards. 800 meters, 880 yards, or half a mile. So, but this is an 1891/30, and all the ones after 1930 were made like this. I think at 36 to 37, they got rid of the hexagonal receiver. And yeah, 1932, it's stamped right on top of the receiver. That's when this one was made. So after 36, it was just a round receiver, and that's what you run across. But I think when I first got this gun, it took me about a week and a half to get all the cosmoline out of it. It was really packed, but it preserved the rifle well, and it shoots pretty good. I'm gonna not try shooting any distance today because we're starting to lose light, and my old eyes, I need a decent light to at least hit the bull. 38 million were made. Even during the First World War, the Russians had, I believe it was Remington and Westinghouse building these rifles for them. And when the communists took over, they abrogated all the contracts, and they left Remington and Westinghouse, holding, I don't know, 100,000 rifles. So it almost bankrupted them. So I think the government's pitched in. They started buying them. U.S. government. These were actually issued to U.S. troops in the Russian caliber. Any soldiers that were near the borders of the Soviet Union, the new Soviet Union. But it's interesting to note that American companies built these for the Russians, and then the Russians stiffed them. Well, when the communists took over, it was Imperial Russia under the Tsar, and then when the communists murdered him and his family, and they took over, collectivism is never a good thing. It's killed countless millions of people. Extremely long rifle. It balances pretty good. It's not extremely heavy. I don't have my trigger pull gauge. Let me see. It's pretty. There's very little creep. It breaks clean. If I had to guess, about 5-6 pounds. I may put a trigger pull gauge on that later, but it's just my hands are too cold to be doing that out here. And this is a little bit too big for my dining room table. I'd be damaging it. But I'm going to open up this pack of rounds when I do the tests, and they basically look like these. And shoot the ammo, and I have some non-corrosive Tull ammo, made in Russia. I don't see that no more. Hopefully the sanctions go away and they settle that war over there and we can get the cheap ammo again. Because if you get any type of com block weapons, you know, the ammo's drying up for them. Or you get paying very expensive, like 308. I got some mixed in here. Must have some surplus mixed in with it in this box for some reason. The polymer case. But I'm gonna go to the chronograph next. I might have enough light to record this, so let me pause this, and then I gotta get the other camera to set up on a chronograph. I'll put this camera on me shooting a rifle. You can see the actual recoil, and we'll get to the tests. Okay, I'm at the chronograph. I get the other camera set on a close-up shot. This one will be on me shooting a rifle. I'm going to do 2 rounds of the Soviet Silvertip, corrosive ammo, surplus. 2 rounds of the Wolf, Tula, non-corrosive commercial ammo. And I got a hunting round here. This is 180 grain cellular and below soft point, like you use for deer hunting. Surprisingly inexpensive. I only bought it a couple days ago. It was $19 for a box of 20. And it's checkmate ammo. They make pretty good ammo, the S&B. So I'm just curious to see what the velocity is of this. In the box it says 2680, I think, and 2,753 foot-pounds of energy. But I'd have to look at the box again. I'm going to load this in first, and the Silvertip Soviet rounds next, and then the last will be the Tula, the Wolf, the polymer cased, polymer coated steel case ammo. Those will be the first 2 shots. So it'll be the commercial ammo, the Soviet surplus, and the last shot will be this. Let me load the gun. Put this down. Soviet surplus next, and the Wolf. It's all the same crap. All right, first up is the commercial, 148 grains. Nope. All right, that didn't record. The light's kind of funky over here. I may have to move the chronograph. I'll try the commercial again. $25.77. Put another Wolf in. This is a commercial round. $25.21. Change the string. Next up is the Soviet 148 Silvertip. 2673. $26.89. And for string 3, I'll try the brass cased reloadable Say and below. And it didn't record. Let's see if this records. $25.92. I compiled the chronograph results and cover it in a summary of the energy figures. Rifle really doesn't recoil that much. It's not the smoothest bolt action in existence, but I guess for the masses of Russian and Soviet troops over the years, it served its purpose. It wouldn't be one of my first choices for anything, but interesting piece of history that's still kicking along on the battlefields. I was going to mention it's got a 1 in 9 twist, a 1 in 9.5 twist, right hand twist, 4 grooves, 4 lands in the opening, and it'll stabilize heavy bullets. So if you get a reloadable brass like that S&B, you could put 200 grain bullets. You could vary your bullet weight from the surplus type stuff on the shelf. One of the advantages of hand loading. I have a semi-automatic rifle in this chambering. I used to have an SVT Tokarev, but I traded it many years ago. I got good money for it. I have a Romanian PSL, so I don't shoot any corrosive ammo on it. I actually hand load for that, or I'll buy the commercial PPU ammo. Or the S&B now, I see they have that. But you don't want the corrosive stuff in the gas system. I'll cover if you're going to clean corrosive ammo on a old surplus rifle, some of the techniques you could use, or products. But we're going for the next test. Alright, that didn't record. The light's kind of funky over here. I may have to move the chronograph. I'll try the commercial again. $25.77. Put another wolf in. This is a commercial round. $25.21. Change the string. Next up is the Soviet 148 silver tip. $26.73. $26.89. And for string 3, I'll try the brass cased reloadable Say and below. And it didn't record. Yeah, sun's getting low in the sky. Try one more shot of this. Let's see if this records. $25.92. I've already loaded the rifle with the 100-yard target. My first batch, I'm going to try 5 shots of this non-corrosive 148 grain Russian Tula ammo. Before the sun gets in my eyes. Everything's frozen solid here. Nice 20-degree day. One. The recoil is pretty mild. Step. That's 5. He pause this. We're going to see how we did. Okay, I'm going to try another 5. I'm going to use the Soviet surplus, the corrosive silver tip. I believe it's 147 grains. I'm going to try 5 shots. That group down there was shooting about 6 inches high and off to the right. And it's about a 6-inch group with that wolf ammo, or tull ammo. Take 5 shots. It's got a stripper clip guide. If you have stripper clips, you can drop 5 in at once. Of course, I drop one on the ground. 1, 2, 3. Fingers are getting numb out here. All right. Same thing, 5 shots. I gotta use the 6 o'clock hold. See if that, I used the center hold that time on the tull. Slight hang fire there. All right, pause this camera again, and we're gonna have a look. Okay, this camera's on a 100-yard rifle target. I'll try a center hold. We'll see how it works out. I go back, take 5 shots off the bench with the 148 grain Soviet corrosive stuff. 6-inch spread, one up here. I go back and repeat that with the corrosive stuff. I shot the Tola ammo. I don't know if this comes through on this camera. I'm gonna put another 5. Okay, this is the Soviet stuff. Seems to shoot a tighter group. I'm going to say 3 MOA. I know this camera's got a bad mic on it. 6 o'clock hold, more to the point of aim. So we'll go back to the bench and I'll talk about that in the summary. Okay, I'm back on 100 yard. I'll explain this in a summary, but this was the toll ammo. 1, 2, 3. No, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. One went off here. So that's a good 6 or 7 inches. Got about a 3-inch group here with the communist surplus, the corrosive stuff, and a true 1 flyer. I knew I pulled that when I shot it. I was using a 6 o'clock hold, so it was about 2 inches high at 100 yards. These sights are in meters, but I'm going to try, I get the long range camera out. I'm going to set it going on the 200 yard plate and try and hit it with this Russian silver tip. I'm just going to leave the sight set at 100 meters. It shouldn't drop that much. Load the gun. I do have stripper clips for this. I should have dug them out. It's a lot easier loading. Alright. Put my gloves on. Get that plate way out there. It's like a little off to the right. Try the 100 yard. Missed that one too. One more. And go 200. Okay, it's recording. Let me see if we can get that plate way out there. It's like a little off to the right. try the 100-yard. I missed that one too. One more. And go 200. Okay, that's a ballistic pendulum target. This doesn't really zoom in, but and maybe get a little closer. The tree my targets were attached to fell down in the windstorm yesterday. And center plate's going to be a 223 out of a Savage Axis, and the right plate will be I use one of the Wolf ammos. I'm not sure what the Russian stuff has, steel core in it. And the right plate, one shot each. Go back and get the rifles. Okay, that's our ballistic pendulum. A lot more energy in the 7.62 by 54 Russian. As you expect, it's a full power battle rifle cartridge. Next up, comparative recoil. Right, comparative recoil test. Three. Sun's getting low in the sky here. And now the 7.62 by 54. Missed the plate. That'll be our comparative recoil test. Next up, I'm just going to shoot at some plates with this gun, maybe 4 or 5 shots, and then I'll do a terminal effects test. So let me put these guns down. Okay, I'm going to shoot 5 shots here. It's mixed. I get some of the corrosive stuff and some of the Tula. The tool is way off. That's why I was shooting before with the plate. So I'll do it again. I got one on the one camera on the overall scene and this camera on me. And the sun's starting to go in my eyes. Let's try a further plate. Right on the money. This one at the 100. Missed that one. Let's try the 200-meter plate again. In the rocks. And 100-yard. Recoil's not bad. It is a bit of unwieldy gun and length. It's got good sight radius though, but I'm really not a fan of the tangent little notch sights. Hard to see, especially this time of the year. The sun just runs over the ridge like this in your face. So Gonna do the terminal effects test next, and I'll pause this and set that up. I'll do it again. I got one on the one camera on the overall scene, and this camera on me. And the sun's starting to get on my eyes. Let's try a further plate. Right on the money. This one at 100. What's that one? Let's try the 200 meter plate again. In the rocks. And 100 yard. Recoil's not bad. It is a bit of unwieldy. Okay, I'm back for the terminal effects test. You've watched my other videos. It's 6 inches of water, 3/4 inch piece of plywood. That plywood's been shot before, but I got it on a clean part, and the prior hits are marked. Another 6 inches of water, little thin witness board. Capture if the bullet starts flipping or departing from its trajectory there. 2 more water jugs. Between the third and the fourth, I have a 3/4 inch piece of plywood. Again, shot previously on a clean spot. And some plywood to backstop it, and a little piece of wood on the back end. I'm going to use this Russian surplus, Soviet surplus, 148 grain silver tip. It's corrosive priming. And one shot. I believe I got the other camera running. This one's back a bit, so it doesn't get splashed. And we'll see what we can see. We're going to recover the projectile. Okay, I got the autopsy. I did recover the projectile. Pretty interesting result. Jug 1, the water. It entered here, drilled a tiny clean hole, just the size of the bullet at the back. I had to look real careful on this first piece of plywood. These are the 2 prior hits. This is a bullet hole, just went straight through the plywood. I mean, clean as like a drill bit. Very strange. Maybe because the wood's frozen. Number 2, it hit here, blew the jug apart. This is a witness board between 2 and 3. You can clearly see the projectiles moving sideways. It's tumbling. Jug 3. It's a good thing I numbered them. I never figure out which was which. You see the projectile going sideways through the jug. Yeah, blew it apart. Jug number 4. I can't figure out where it entered. It split it on one side and blew out the other side. It might have entered here and just ripped the side out because it was flying sideways. And this backup piece of plywood, projectile's jammed in. I'm gonna have to dig it out with a screwdriver or a knife. So see what it looks like. But that's our terminal effect target on a 90-year-old infantry rifle. Like I said, still on use on the battlefields today after its introduction in 1891. long time ago. A little unwieldy. The bolt is not as smooth as a Mauser or an Enfield. A little clunky, but does the job. It seems like the Silvertip Soviet ammo is a lot more accurate than the commercial Russian ammo produced, the non-corrosive stuff. And I'll go into that in a summary, but collect all my things here, and I'll do the summary inside. I won't need the rifle, I just have the targets and such. So that'll be that for the thermal effects test. Okay, back from my summary of this 1932 vintage Mosin Nagant rifle. The product of two designers. One was Belgium, Nagant. I think there was a lawsuit over some of his design features being incorporated here. It wasn't compensated for. Mosin Nagant rifle. This is a modernized version after 1930. I did a few upgrades. The sights are in the metric system instead of the old Russian imperial system. In the first, in the introduction, I was talking about hand loading this cartridge, and I said 312 thousandths of an inch bolts, which are correct, but you're gonna have a hard time finding them. The cartridge you can reload fine with 308 thousandths, standard 308 thousand projectiles. I've done this for quite a while, especially with my PSL, and they shoot very accurately. The land diameter is still 30 caliber, 300 1,000ths of an inch. So it's just that there's a little more slop in the bore. The finished versions of this, I understand, their barrels are 308 diameter instead of 311 or 312, and that's the only difference. But you can use the reloading data for either. In this 2016 10th edition of the Hornady Reload Manual, they have extensive data on reloading the 7.62 by 54 R cartridge. So if you're going to get into reloading this cartridge and get some reloadable brass like this SMB I shot over the chronograph, you have a versatile system. I did have a M44 version, a Polish made version. It's a sawed-off carbine. It had like an 18-inch barrel with the bayonet that was fixed to the gun. It would spring-loaded and fold out. Very unpleasant gun to shoot. Very powerful muzzle blast and flash, especially shooting the communist ammo out of it. I really didn't care for it, so I sold it. I made a few bucks on it, but I sold it long ago. But I kept this one because this is really the historic rifle. As bolt actions go, it's not one of my favorites. It's serviceable. It's an interesting piece of history. So I shot corrosive ammo out of it. The Soviet surplus, I had a tin of this stuff. I still have a lot of it. I don't shoot it through my PSL, but it's I got a silver tip. It's light ball, steel cased, just like the commercial ammo. This is the Tulla or the Wolf. It's steel, but it's got polymer coating on the outside. It's to aid in extraction. But when you shoot corrosive ammo, the corrosive primers, you gotta clean the gun properly. Bolt gun ain't bad. Pull the bolt out. There's a couple different ways I do it. You can do it the cheapest, simplest way. Is you get a cup of very hot water from the faucet with some Dawn dishwashing detergent. You soak some cleaning patches, run them through the bore. Then you brush. Then repeat with the soaked, the hot soapy patches up and down like you clean a black powder gun. That's the most inexpensive way. The hot water evaporates evaporates, and then you use regular hops number 9 or any solvent you want, gun cleaning solvent. Clean the bore thoroughly, and then I like ballastol, and I lube the gun up with ballastol. If you don't want to do that, you could get either a bottle of ammonia or Windex. You soak the cleaning patches with Windex or the ammonia, patch it through the barrel, brush it, patch it through the barrel, brush it, make sure you get all the corrosive salts neutralized. Because if you leave it be, in a week's time, you'll destroy the bore. It'll rust up like and turn dark on you. That happened one time to me to a rifle. They also make corrosive bore neutralizer, like in a jar, like a Hoppy's cleaning jar. I forget who makes it. I do have some of that, but the other methods work if you don't want to buy a dedicated solvent. All the surplus ammo is pretty much dried up. I had a couple of tins when they were extremely cheap, extremely inexpensive. But we did our velocity tests. Well, I did my velocity test. I had the Tula commercial ammo, and it's loaded with 148 grain full metal jacket projectile. The velocity was 2577 feet per second for the 2 shots, and the energy comes out to 2,183 foot-pounds of energy. The Soviet surplus, the silver tip, 148 grain light ball, and I did weigh it. It actually came out to 148.6 grain on my powder scale. Velocity was 2,673 feet per second, and the energy was 2,348, 100 feet a second faster, just about, over the commercial Tula, and much better. The S&B commercial, the reloadable stuff, this is actually like hunting type ammo. It's got a brass case, and it's 180 grain jacketed soft point. It's pretty much, the 308, right between the 308 and 3006 category. Velocity was 2,591 feet per second for only the 1 shot I fired, and 2,686 foot-pounds of energy, which is another 350 foot-pounds over the Soviet ball. On the box here, it says muzzle velocity 2625. So my chronograph was very close to it, and 2753 foot-pounds of energy, and out to 400 yards. It's still carrying almost 1,000 foot-pounds of energy. There are sporterized versions of these because 37 million of them were made. Pull out my trigger pull gauge. It breaks cleanly at 5.5 pounds. The rifle. So did the chronograph. Went to the accuracy test. See what I could do at 100 yards with these tangent little sight. Little tiny notch in the rear sight, and the blade. The blade ain't bad, but the notch in the back is pretty bad. I shot I think on the close-up camera on the hunting gun target, I said I was going to shoot the Soviet stuff first, and I wound up shooting the Tula, the commercial Russian stuff. You can't get that no more, neither, because of the war, for sanctions. But it's basically, I gotta zero this out because when I looked at the video, this was the Soviet stuff. So that's the Soviet. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one went right through the stick that's holding the target up. So there's 5 shots there. It was 6, 7 inches high and 4 inches to the right. The Soviet ball, I pulled the shot up here. I knew when I slipped on the ice. If you look at my table, there's all ice over, and the little rust shifted a little bit. But these are the 4 shots, and I was using a 6 o'clock hold on with the Soviet ball, and it shot an acceptable group. I'd say 3 inches, maybe 3 1/4, and that's what you can expect out of a battle rifle on a good day. And an M14 will do that. Not much better. But off the bench is the most recoil you're going to receive when you shoot a rifle. It really ain't that bad, even with a steel butt plate. Gun probably weighs about 8 pounds. I have Jane's, the firearm reference book, but everything's given in kilograms, no pounds or inches or anything like that, nothing in the imperial system. I shot some steel plates offhand. I did the ballistic pendulum test, 223 with the 7.62 by 54R. The fins called it 7.62 by 53R instead of 54R. I don't know why that is. A lot more energy because it's a full power battle rifle cartridge. Very much like a 308 or 3006. It's in that class. It's amazing. It's, as archaic as it is, it's still soldiering around to this day, all across the world, and some violent crap holes. But did the comparative recoil with the 223. There's no recoil with the 223 bolt gun, and there's very little recoil with this. It's not unmanageable or painful, or especially when you stand it up. Any misses of the plates is probably me and the way this thing is printed to the right. I was trying to use some Kentucky windage, and I waxed some plates I didn't, but just shows you the overall utility. It's basically a collectible piece of history, if you will, on a planking gun. That's what most of these military surplus firearms are. They're fun to shoot and own. Not my favorite military surplus or historic bolt gun, but it's not bad. I shot it at 200 yards. I'll have the camera footage in there of the plates. I was shooting high and to the right, and hitting the rocks right behind them where the plate's suspended. It's 200 meters, 220 yards, 200 meters. But I missed every shot I took at it. I took, I think, 3 shots at it, and then I think I took one offhand. But the temperature never went above 20 degrees today. Yesterday, it was high wind here. A couple of big trees fell down. I had an 18-inch diameter tree snapped 10 feet off the ground, 50 yards on the right side of that range. And then my little ballistic pendulum saw the tree that the other side was attached to, that snapped in half too and fell down. I have a 2x4 propping it up. I gotta redo that. Accuracy is acceptable for battlefield, especially with iron sights. Could you hit a man at 200 or 300 yards? Yes, absolutely. Would probably, a little practice and a little, younger eyes. But and that's what it's designed for. It's designed for combat, the combat weapon. Some of these have been sporterized into hunting rifles. Actually, quite a few of them. They cut the stock off, they chop the barrels down, and some of them even put bent bolts and you put a scope on it. Well, you'd have a hard time putting a scope on this gun. You'd have to be on the side of the receiver because the back of the receiver is open top. Let's see, accuracy, ballistic pendulum, shot the steel, lost track in the cold. The terminal effects test. 6 inches of water, 3/4 inch piece of plywood, simulates heavy bone. It's an analog for a game animal, human, whatever. 3 more jugs of water, 18 inches of water. Between jug number 2 and 3, I had a little thin witness board. I brought it in just to show. Between jug 3 and 4, another 3/4 inch piece of plywood, and it was backed up by 3 or 4 sheets of plywood, laying against the backside of the 4 jug. So it punched a clean hole in the first jug. It went through the plywood like neat as a drill. You could barely see the bullet hole. After it hit the second jug, started to stabilize and really ruptured that jug. Went through the witness board. After jug number 2. Had to stop that for a minute. I thought I lost the projectile. Went through between the second and third jug is a witness board. Projectile is going sideways. You can see that clearly. And in the jug, I think I showed on the autopsy of that the terminal effects test, that one of the jugs, the bullet was going sideways. Went through between 3 and 4, the other 3/4 inch piece of plywood. So 2 3/4 inches piece of plywood and 18 inches of water. Went through the 4th jug, blew that up, and the 3/4 inch sheets of ply that were shot up before, that were behind it, it went halfway into the plywood sideways, and I recovered the projectile. I actually loaded up and fired it in a case, completely undeformed, and I weighed it on my powder scale. It was 148 grains, and didn't lose any weight. It didn't get bent. Oh. You see the rifle marks on it, and you know, I could probably shove it back in the case there. It's on the case. Full metal jacket ammo will generally do that. I put a magnet to it. I don't know if there's a steel, I assume there's a steel core in it, or it's steel jacket, but magnet sticks to it. So that's the Soviet light ball. You know, very effective. It's you know, widespread on the battlefields of the world, even to this day. Did the corrosives, the hand loading part. I know I'm forgetting something, but I guess my brain's kind of cold. I was out in that cold all day. My hands were freezing too. But that's just a demo of my part 1 of 4 parts of battle rifles of both World Wars. This was in both World Wars, 1 and 2. The Russians were a participant until 1917 when the communists took over. The next up is going to be the number 4 Mark 1 Lee Enfield, SMLE, short magazine Lee Enfield, 303 British. That was the weapon of the British Empire from 1889 to about 1957. You know, when they switched over to 308 and the FNFAL, the self-loading rifle. But I think it soldiered on for a while in their sniper rifles in modified Enfields. But that's what I'll be doing next. And it's actually 2 years older than the Soviet cartridge. Loaded with smokeless too, or cordite back then. It served them for 75 years until they were no longer an empire. Now they're just a little country. But their empire spanned 300 years, and they ruled a great deal of the world. And they were in both World Wars too, obviously one of the major combatants. I don't have a French rifle. All I have is a Russian, British, American, and German. So part 2 will be the Enfield. I don't know when I get around to doing it, but that's it. All I got for this video. If you like the content, like and subscribe, and you know, share it. And if you get any comments or whatever, you know, send them in, and I'll, you know, on the comment on the video, and I get notified. I'll try and answer them if I can. I'm Old Gun Guy. You have a good evening.